I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Happy New Year! Welcome to the Curb Your Enthusiasm After Show. So much fun to be had.
It's like March.
I am so happy to be here. It's never
Happy New
too
Year.
late to wish someone a Happy New Year.
I guess not. All right.
Joined, as always, by Lazy Flobo, Lazy James, and of course, Lazy Rachel.
The laziest.
I am Lazy Christian. We are all here talking about the latest episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm, episode 8 of season 10. There's only 2 left.
No.
I'm not ready.
I'm not ready
ready
either.
to say goodbye.
been a long
Possibly
ride.
forever, or maybe just another 8 years. We'll see what
I'm
happens.
not ready to say goodbye to you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I forgot about that.
Yeah. Yes, we do come to work together, Christian.
That's true. Well, yeah, that's true. And then that same week, we'll also be finishing up another show that Flobo and I do, and Rachel was on this past week, the Star Trek Picard After Show. We're going to ending the same week.
So many endings coming.
I just don't know what I'm going to have to do. Anyway, overall thoughts on this episode. Lazy Rachel, what did you think?
Well, I'm just too lazy to give you my answer.
Fair enough, James.
Same, I'm lazy.
No, Rachel, just overall, big
No,
picture.
Yeah.
no, I actually thought it was hilarious.
This was a good one.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
actually watched this one at the studio today, and I don't know, Flobo, if you heard me laughing.
I did.
Yeah, but I was laughing
You're
pretty
watching
much.
different stations because, we have this whole thing where it's like his and hers. No, we're
Yeah.
going back and forth and we're watching it, and I just heard you laughing.
There's a virus out there. You guys can't
I
watch
know
TV
about that.
together.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the thing is about this episode, which I was always my big complaint all season was I could see the seams of some of the more weaker episodes, but this one I had no idea where it was going. Some of the concepts were new to me, so I was on board.
We'll go through it. There's a couple things that I felt like, all right, that's what's going to happen next. And it was like, oh, no, just not at all.
Yeah.
No.
So I think that'll be good to discuss. Yes.
I loved Jon Hamm as
Yeah.
Larry David. I think that was my favorite part, hands down. And just the fact, he pretty much nailed Larry.
Yeah.
I like the very towards the end of the episode. We almost got like a recap of episode 1 where Jon Hamm with the wobbly table and the coffee. It was
the
gold.
Gus Van Sant shot by shot remake of the first episode with
Psycho. Yeah.
James Hamm. James Hamm.
James
Jon
Hamm?
Hamm.
Yeah, okay.
Hey.
And here's what I'm going to say about Jon Hamm. As a comedian, he's a great drama actor, but I did think that he did a pretty good Larry. I have trouble with this whole idea of Jon Hamm as comedian, because he's usually I'm just thinking he's not as funny as he thinks he is.
True. What was Hollywood?
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing. I think he's a really good actor.
He's a great
And
actor.
some of the best actors are the most hilarious people. And I know not all traditional actors can do comedy, but I felt like his timing.
And not all comedians can act.
Yeah,
That's not
true.
All of us can act pretty well.
Kevin Hart, not much of an actor.
Yeah, I
He
agree.
was.
I
He was
agree.
cool in Central Intelligence.
Jon Hamm, though, I thought his
I'm sorry. You just mentioned Central Intelligence. We can't. Anyway, Jon Hamm.
Jon Hamm, yeah.
I'm in the minority on this. It's all right.
No, I mean, I just thought I thought his timing was pretty on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you think it was?
It was
I did think that was it was good. I like that it wasn't right away. I like that it built, and then he's getting thrown out of parties like Larry. Again, that's one of the other things. That's specifically something that I thought I knew where it was going.
Yeah.
I thought by setting up this whole idea of Larry and Cheryl's sister, Cheryl and his friend Ted Danson, that Cheryl and Jon Hamm were going to end up together because it's like, the guy pretending to be Larry.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's what I thought too.
And then I like that
thought
she's just like, nope, too much Larry.
Yeah.
Even though he looks like Jon Hamm, I'm out. Which I thought was very funny.
We kind of saw those sparks fly a little bit too when I think it was just outside of the newspaper stand.
Yeah, it was.
There was like a little vibe going on.
Yeah, it was
between
only
them.
at the newsstand because the running into them at Jeff and Susie's house was the first time where people were like, shut up, Jon Hamm. So I found that to be funny, just the way that everybody is just treating Jon Hamm like, just get out of here.
Yeah.
like he legitimately is Larry David Jr.
I
But-
think they called him that. Larry David
They
Jr.
did.
Yeah.
Somebody did call him Larry
they
David Jr.,
did.
Yeah.
And the other thing I noticed too, before we kind of had that moment between Cheryl and John, we had it with John and Becky. And I thought I thought it was going to turn into Becky and Larry, but then Becky was going to leave Larry for John because John was exactly like him, except
blame that, yeah.
John Hamm.
Yeah, no, I did. I thought both of those things, like different points in the episode. I'm like, all right, well, we see where that's going. And shout out to the tremendous Caitlin Olsen, who people know from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I thought she was great, and she had not been on in quite some time. And her husband, Rob, who plays Mac on It's Always Sunny, actually had a post about how the first time he ever saw her was before he moved to LA. It was when she was on Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Oh, wow.
So he then watched the episode with her last night, and then he made fun of her in the post. So I thought that was fantastic.
As Rob does.
Yeah, exactly.
True love, man.
True, exactly. True love.
So let's talk about some of the important things in the course of the episode. We start off talking about something that I had never really thought about, but you know what? This is a question for everybody, but I am going to start with the men.
I know. What's happening?
Are toes the second most disgusting body part to testicles, Flobo?
Yes.
Okay.
No, enough said. Yes, it is.
Yeah, I have
Toes
to.
are pretty disgusting.
Yeah, they're up there.
Women's feet, different story,
Yeah.
but men's feet are
pretty
really gross.
Toes are like handwriting. Like, no one's going to say, oh, you have great handwriting. But if it's terrible, yeah, you're going to know.
You're getting called out.
I would like to clip out you saying toes are like handwriting, and then we'll make sure that goes viral. Rachel, you do not have to comment on this, but if you would like to, you are. I don't want to leave you out.
I would say yes.
Yeah. I mean, men. Did you ever get a mani-pedi? And it's like, well, of course I've gotten a manicure.
Yeah.
But the idea of I did let my wife talk me into a pedicure once.
Yeah.
And I hated it was like it hurt.
Yeah.
It was painful. I'm like, why is anyone doing this?
I feel the same way. So people can't touch my feet.
Yeah.
People can't.
They get kicked. So no, it's probably not in the benefit.
Actually, your picture is up at salons everywhere. It's like Manny, yes, pedi.
Wait, do you
let her
pay people
in.
just to kick them later on? Just like, here's 20 bucks. Whack!
She doesn't kick them until after they finish. You want a tip? Here, here's a kick.
Nope. They see me, they say, sorry, we're closed.
No, not you. Not you again.
Goodbye.
And then this sort of builds on a Jerry Seinfeld theory that I think they addressed on the show, but it's also in his stand-up. The idea of like, well, you eat at the Chinese restaurant that has the Chinese people in it.
Yeah.
That seems okay. Yeah. But I guess turning to the people of the restaurant, and only Larry has, in the way that only Larry can, I just personally, specifically what I'm talking about is turning to the table of Chinese people and asking them what they ordered. Because he's just like, well, get whatever they get. Now, I think the logical way to do this is if you were going to do that, ask the waiter, like, so what did they get? Yeah. Don't actually ask, so what did you guys get?
Right.
I don't know. What do you think about the concept and Larry's approach to it, Rachel?
It's called Google. You can find out exactly what you're supposed to order and eat. And if you really aren't sure, ask the server, ask the manager, ask somebody what their best dish is at the restaurant.
Yeah, is that why the server's there, James?
Yes, as we all know, your boy is a server for many years, and I've had many times people were like, what's that over there? Like, what's the other thing? Like, I totally get that, and that is the proper approach. But turning to someone and opening up a can of worms about no, like like you said, go on Google. Google will not be offended if you ask an offensive question. Just go on Google.
Or to be fair, I have asked Google some very offensive questions, and I've ended up on a few lists.
Okay. Now you use Bing.
When it's about places to eat, yes. But I also think that even if, say it's an American food restaurant, it's a diner, whatever, and there's no like racial implications. Even walking over to anyone at a table, and be like, excuse me, what'd you get? Like, if you might be talking to somebody, they ask for the ketchup or something, like, hey, by the way, what'd you get? But just randomly asking people, it is a very strange thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
When I've been abroad, I haven't done that. I still stick with, I don't know, just, it doesn't matter. I still stick with asking whoever's serving me, or, Google, it works.
Yeah. You're selling out to Google, yo.
Shout out to Google.
Yeah, thank you, Google, for existing.
Saving lives.
I will say many times when I eat alone or eat with some friends, I'm always usually alone. Because when someone comes here like,
you got us, man.
Hey, thanks, man. Appreciate it. I'm sitting here tearing into whatever it is, and someone's like, that looks so good. You're like, oh, no, they're judging me from now on. So I totally get how awkward.
So is that why you don't want to eat in front of people?
That's true. I usually go to up of a tree and just burrow like a squirrel. That's pretty much
just fill his cheeks full of food.
Just have big headphones on. And
we're the servers, so you need them.
Obviously, there's a lot of things that we will all collectively agree with Larry and the other characters on the show. But a little later in the show, we'll be giving you our curb correction corner, which is the things that we find a little difficult. It's maybe where either Larry or someone else on the show went a little too far, so stay tuned for that. I do want to see what everybody thinks about the business idea that was hatched in this episode. Gotta Go. James, what do you think about Gotta Go?
You know, when you really think about it, I think there might be something to that.
I think there is, yeah.
Because I think we all have had jobs or know people who have jobs like that where you have to stay in a certain place. I would be interested to see like how they would manifest it, because they made it seem like, I think one of the names they pitched was Poober,
yeah.
I will be interested to see if they like kept it going, how they would like, do you go on the app and like let me get 6 minutes real quick, come on down to the newsstand. So I thought that was a great idea, and I was happy, and it was funny the way it was implemented as well.
Can we get a version where you're driving and need somebody? Because that would be...
You want somebody to drive you around?
No. If you're driving and you're on like a 6 or 7 hour trip and there's no bathroom anywhere.
Yeah.
Not that
I
would
mean,
really...
I feel like you're the only one at this table that has that problem, because the rest of us
thinking
the rest of us have Gatorade bottles. We just have to make sure
Right.
that we don't make the same mistake that Leon did.
Yeah. He said he only did it once.
I know, which was great. You know how many times I did that?
Once.
Yeah. It's not lemon rush flavor at all. No, the thing is, I always wonder how the practicality of it is, because I get DoorDash, it's like 45 minutes to an hour. How does Uber work, or how does Gotta Go work? Am I just sitting there, or do I have to anticipate where I'm about to go? Like, so many
Well, I
questions.
think, if you're somebody that's doing the delivery for one of those services, whether it's Uber Eats or anything none of them of which are sponsors, then you're going to go to the restaurant to pick something up. I would assume that's when you're going to go. You're not going to, oh yeah, so here's your food. Mind if I come on in and
pop in there real quick?
What'd you order? Yeah.
You just gave me the idea of eating someone's dinner and then just showing up at the bag like, sorry, but it was delicious. You should definitely order this next time.
You've inspired me to get this myself.
Look, the app just registers that I got here. The fact that you didn't get your food is
That's
fine.
your problem.
Yeah.
David.
So we dealt with that. We dealt with the concept of appreciation. And Larry doesn't subscribe to the word appreciate. Although Richard Lewis did invoke it in his honor. Flobo, what do you think about this concept of, I would really appreciate it? Are you with Larry on the overusage of this word? I would appreciate a quick answer.
Yes. Well, you can't get it. No, I'm torn, because like I understand where he's coming from, because it's definitely a word that's overused now, and you're just like, sure, I bet you do. But a lot of times I think thank you is overused, or thanks, because there's so many snide emails. When someone goes, thanks for reading, or as per my last email, thanks. So to say that I really mean it, I'll say I appreciate. So I'm kind of like paradoxical.
Did somebody hurt you with a thank you email?
That's why I eat alone, guys, because I've been hurt too many times.
I appreciate you not eating with me.
Thank you.
So that no one is watching
That's perfect,
and judging.
Thanks.
I wrote down that it's the new sorry. Because
Yeah.
it's basically like, sorry, but, I just stole this from you. But I'm sorry.
No, and I've definitely had people point out like that. Saying I'm sorry, well, first of all, love means never having to say I'm sorry. But besides that, it's also, I'm glad you like that.
That part.
But the idea that, it's just like, you just sort of reflexively say I'm sorry. You're not actually sorry because you didn't do it. But it's like the shorter version of saying, I'm sorry to hear that you're not having a good day. Just like, oh, sorry.
Yeah.
He's like, what else am I going to say?
Yeah.
I mean, all right, now I have to be quiet with what I really wanted to talk to you about because you're having such a crappy day.
At least we have sorry, not sorry.
Oh,
That's true.
That's
We
the
do
jam
have that
right
now.
there.
Yeah.
Or, if you're in Canada, sorry, not sorry.
Sorry, not sorry.
Sorry, not sorry. So we also have the CEO, Richard Lewis's girlfriend, and he definitely looks more sickly than he did last week.
Thank you.
I'm definitely
Thank
week
you.
to week. I'm worried about him. It's like, did he lose weight?
Yeah.
He should eat everything at the.
I think he had a recent back surgery. I think that's from the reason.
Is that
I think
like
so.
real life?
In real life,
okay,
yeah,
I just
yeah,
wasn't.
yeah.
I was like, wait, did I
Yeah,
miss like
yeah,
a plot
that's-
point?
That's not a funny scene at all. I got back surgery.
I missed the back surgery episode. But so the CEO, Larry doesn't like, and then Richard has to come up with the excuse. Bleeding rectum. I mean, there are so many, like Larry said, like, just call me. I've got a million excuses. And that's a really severe excuse. And Richard then forgets to explain to his girlfriend that, oh yeah, he's better now. So he's got to sit on the folding chair, and that turns into a whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Rachel, have you ever had to make up an excuse, that is something like, oh, this person doesn't like you, but I don't want to say that, And would you ever have thought like, well, they don't want you around because they want to talk about their bleeding rectum and they're embarrassed?
No,
Yeah.
that would not be my first thought. It might be something like, it might be, they're talking about something personal with their health.
Well, sure.
But I
they
wouldn't say
broke up with
bleeding-
someone,
Yeah. Or like
they have
even
a sick relative. There's
Something
just
ambiguous
private,
in general.
Yeah.
Have a private conversation.
male talk. Like they
Yeah.
could have even just said
Yeah.
that and left it alone.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about our feet, and obviously you don't want to hear about that.
Nope.
But who even why bleeding rectum of all the things to just randomly come out?
Because you'll never say, I think you're lying. No one's like, wait a
Great
minute.
point. That's a great
Is
point.
it really bleeding? Yeah.
So the bleeding rectum comes up. Didn't know I would say this so many
So
times.
many
on the
times in one
show.
episode.
You say your mom listening to this? I'm so sorry, Mom.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mom. And my
James's mom?
My mom's is in the chat, and my aunt is in the chat.
I'm
and
so sorry.
Oh, no.
It's only a family show.
I love you,
Well,
Mom.
how many times have I said bleeding rectum?
A lot, and she's telling me.
Are they saying that they would like to stop hearing people say
Yeah.
bleeding rectum?
Yeah.
Have we said bleeding rectum too many times on this show?
I appreciate it if you stop saying bleeding rectum.
Well,
Yeah.
and we're gonna have
Sorry.
to talk about bleeding rectum a couple more times.
We are,
Yeah.
because it does tie into sort of the big debate that we had here in the studio, the Lazy Susan.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
And what were some of the alternative names that you were reading about it, Rachel?
Wow. We could say that. Oh my gosh, I'm just gonna not say
Ambiguous?
this. Ambiguous
There it
Susan.
is.
Thank
Ambiguity.
you.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was one of the good moments that Larry and Jon Hamm went back and forth
Yeah.
with some of the alternate names. And James, my understanding is that because this came up on the show, you did some research into the Lazy Susan.
Yeah, your boy did a little bit of looking up of things, and I came across some things as well. So I just, in the episode, we were, I wouldn't even think that Lazy Susan was a racist and or sexist term. So I looked it up, and I literally Googled, is Lazy Susan offensive?
Which I bet there's probably a lot of those searches in the last.
It came up quite a bit, yeah.
24 hours. Yeah.
So I came across a little snippet of information that you guys can see on your screen now. So it turns out that Lazy Susan has quite a few derivatives. One of which is my least favorite as a waiter. It's called dumb waiter. It was called in the past. There's another one called dumb silent waiter. Also called serving a self-waiting table, a serviette, or a butler's assistant.
Now, a few of those things I have heard the term applied to something else. The dumb waiter being like when you put the food and it goes down to another
Yeah, you
floor,
can
Really?
like
pulley
down to
system.
a kitchen or something. Yeah, it's a pulley system.
yeah.
It's like older buildings.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
I've only ever seen it in I don't
Like
know.
movies or
I'm going to
something like
assume it's on Downton Abbey. I just haven't ever seen it. I'm just going to bet.
That's the one thing you
That's a fair
assume with that
assessment.
show.
That's a fair
I think
assessment.
it's a
That's
dumb
the
waiter
one
in
thing
there.
I assume about Downton Abbey is that they have a dumb waiter.
I mean, the only thing I know is that they called that thing. So we have the Lazy Susan, but then we also had the manhole, which is that big construction area.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I know that they were talking about changing the name of that.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes a little bit more sense
But-
than Lazy Susan.
Oh, for that
Far
one.
less offensive.
With Lazy Susan, I was more concerned and perplexed about the idea of them having to turn it a certain way.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, but why?
Well, I did tell you that that's real. That's
I have no
idea.
that- There's etiquette for turning it the wrong way. Now, you might not get it slapped down, but for those that don't know, my wife is Chinese American, and we will go to these big banquets for Chinese New Year. Actually, we had them. Our wedding was Chinese banquet style. So if you spin it the wrong way, like if it's going the other way and Flobo spins it and he takes something, that's going to be okay. But if you're on the other side and you spin it the wrong way, everybody's going to talk about you. They're going to make sure you're not at their table the next time.
Oh, of course.
Because the food gets placed by a certain person, so it's like, well, now you're the first person. Now you're the first person. But it's like, well, I want to get 8 walnut shrimp, which is usually the way I approach it. I have been the person who has spun it the wrong way. And
Live to tell about it.
yeah,
Yeah.
well,
Oh, you're here.
I think I was silently judged. But yeah, I mean,
Is
there
it like a proximity thing? Like, is it okay if someone is next to you spins it the
That's
wrong
what I was
way?
saying. Is that seems to be okay, but
Okay.
it's like if you're skipping like 4 or 5 people so that it can go towards you, the people who are expecting to get I'll always go with the walnut shrimp, but it's the duck, whatever you want, So there's something to be said for it. Now I think that that's a bigger problem than what to call it, but I did think it was great that Richard Kine's character, that's cousin Andy, and I don't remember his wife's name, but she was the one who was actually upset by it, and the spinning it back and forth was really the problem.
Michelle, yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah.
James Maple takes meticulous notes.
Clutch.
Are you the kind of server that takes it on your head, or do you write it down?
I write it down. And that's one of my.
Please do.
I always appreciate that.
That's
Thank
one
you.
of my pet peeves.
Yeah.
Even when I go out to eat as a server myself, like I don't care if you know you are that server and
Yeah.
write it down. Because like for me as a server, there have been moments where you'll write something down and like on your way to the computer system to type it in, you'll be stopped 4 and 5 times, and I'm like. 6 minutes have passed. I didn't remember that you were a vegan and you need this.
Yeah.
And like, write it down.
Now, to
Write
be
it
fair,
down.
I only tend to eat at restaurants that have picture placemats with numbers. So if they
coloring
don't
book?
write down that I want the number 3, it's going to be fine.
Yeah, a little bit less intrusive
Hey.
there, but I feel you.
I can't even tell you. I like when I order salads, I like my dressing on the side.
Yeah.
And I can't even tell you how many times if someone does not write down that I want that a certain way, it ends up with the dressing on the
Now,
salad.
Of course.
will you say I asked for this on the side, or do
No,
you
I just eat it.
Yeah.
Because like I've been in customer service most of my life, so
Yeah.
I'm not that person who's gonna be like,
Yeah.
no, I'm not eating this. Take
No,
it away.
I wait on those people all the damn time.
I
Trust
try to
me.
be nice
Yeah.
and say, I'm sorry, I asked for it on the side.
Yeah.
But
That's
you know,
appreciated. by
And
the
then,
way.
and then,
That's
and then if they get something else wrong, then I throw it against the wall.
Okay, that's not
That's
appreciated.
you get a chance. Second thing I throw against the wall.
Strike 2, you're out.
Leave it though.
So I thought that it was very funny, and then of course Richard's girlfriend didn't want Larry to have the nice chair. Nice chair gets ruined by the sweet and sour sauce. Which I did think was a very funny sequence,
was
actually.
funny.
The way that it hit the chair, and just we look at the stain.
And she still kind of looked at his butt too. That was a funny thing.
Yeah.
For a second, I thought she thought it might have been Larry. and not-
I think I thought the same thing too.
And Larry's never that fast. I don't know what kind of supersonic speed he was pulling. Just
Well,
out
I
the
think
way.
he just saw something bad
Sure.
heading towards him. So he's probably used to things being thrown at him. If I had
That
to
is
guess.
definitely
Yeah.
true.
So I thought that was funny, and what I did want to go back to Gotta Go for a second, because did anybody think that the guy who ran the newsstand, sort of the way that his story ends, he comes back, and Jon Hamm has left the newsstand unattended. I don't know how long that guy was in the bathroom. That all of his magazines were basically pilfered, but do we expect to see him again? Because
Yes.
I think so.
I think that they're building up a lot of people being angry at Larry
Yeah.
who have not been resolved yet, in the course of their individual episodes.
That felt like a Kirk moment yelling out Khan. So I'm expecting that we will see him back and that there will be some kind of revenge, especially because right around that time, we also saw, it was literally him saying, Larry!
Yeah.
And then we cut to Cheryl and Jon Hamm going to Mocha Joe's and passing Latte Larry. So I was like, okay, what is this guy going to do to Latte Larry's?
It's interesting because I didn't see it that way watching it, but why don't you bring it up? Yeah, there are a lot of people out there who just been spurned and scorned by this guy.
Yeah.
I can't believe the giant angry mob is going to form at the last episode or something.
I don't know. I think, is he just going to use the script from the final episode of Seinfeld?
I'm here for it.
Just bring everybody
It's like a
back?
new Mustang. It was like an old Mustang. It's all good.
Yeah, let's get some food in jail and watch it.
So at the heart of the episode is, of course, we referenced earlier Caitlin Olsen as Cheryl's sister, Becky.
Yeah.
Becky.
Yes.
Becky. And I did think that was funny when Larry goes over. At what point did any of you think, oh, okay, so they're obviously going to sleep together? Right when he walked in, or when was it, Rachel?
First of all, it was a throwback to me to the the woman who got paid to cry. I was like, okay, is that what Becky's doing here?
That's a good point.
Which I
she-
did think,
yeah.
I thought the same thing.
But
too. I thought she was
Then,
faking it.
yeah, I really didn't know until Becky leaned in to kiss him.
Yeah.
And then because they were referencing the crown so many times and Margaret and Elizabeth, I'm like, okay, I understand what's happening here, this competitive element.
Okay.
Yeah, and then of course she tells Cheryl, you know,
Yeah.
because I did like when she comes in, when Cheryl comes in, he's like,
told
"Wait,
you?"
who told you that? Becky?"
Becky?
And he's like, "Oh," and then he's like, "Well, yeah,
You got me. Yeah.
yeah." And I don't know. I mean, look, she's an adult. I don't know. Is Larry in the wrong, James? It's his ex-wife's sister, not his wife's sister. His ex-wife's sister.
Yeah, I think so. I think he's wrong, and I think they actually brought that up. And I guess I would pose the same question to you guys in the logic of this scene. You remember where Cheryl? They compare Cheryl dating Ted to Larry dating Becky.
It is a lot different.
I think those are world leagues apart.
Those are very different.
Yeah.
So, and with that said, I definitely think that he was in the wrong. I definitely think Larry was in the wrong.
I think so too.
I was
sure.
absolutely shocked based on what we know from Larry going to the house. He thought it was unclean and unkempt, and having someone like wearing like tattered clothes make a move. I was like, oh, he's still gonna push her off.
Yeah.
Oh, he's not pushing her
Yeah.
off. Scene's over. Wow. So it's kind of a swerve.
It's the
to me.
only way to get him to back down from sort of making a point of any kind of moral cause. Obviously, he doesn't need the money from this house.
Yeah.
But he's just like, oh no, I'm going to let you keep the profit, but I'm going to get my investment back. And the only way to get him to back down from something like that is sex.
Yeah, sleeping with him.
I thought it was hilarious, and when we get to that scene where he's like, "Well, I thought that two adults consenting to sex that was fine," because it's such a callback to what we had earlier in the season with him. Like, I'm just thinking about the moment with the actress named Terry, who he they didn't really do anything, but how they were video.
Terry Paul.
Terry
was
Paul,
the
yeah.
receptionist.
Yeah, yeah,
themselves,
yeah.
yeah.
She
And-
worked at his lawyer's office.
Yeah, and how
front desk
he was like taking a video of it. Like, is this okay?
Yeah.
Can we do this?
I'm gonna put my arm around you now. And everyone's consenting by that.
Exactly.
And there's like, is that okay? No, it is not. Okay.
Okay, I am pulling my arm away now.
So now with Becky, he's just like going for it. So I'm like, okay.
I mean, that kind of says it all. But as we follow that story through, interestingly enough, because Cheryl makes the point, then he's like, how do you know I'm not going to see her again? And at some point he refers to her as his girlfriend. You're like, all right, you're just really seeing this on through. But could there be a more Larry David moment than when he tries to get the flight? And
yeah.
13F? Is there anything in first? And then not till tonight? Yeah, that's fine. Now, look, as someone who exclusively flies first class,
I knew it. The truth comes out.
I do understand where he's coming from, but in a
He's up,
situation
darling.
like that, I think that's when you have. Okay, so not the middle seat, but he could have gotten an aisle or a window on the next flight. I think that would have been. Don't take the middle seat.
Yeah.
But
That is the worst.
you can sit and coach, but there isn't anybody in your life that's worth sitting in an aisle seat for.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
And it's LAX to Denver. It's like
like
a
an
two-hour
Yeah,
flight.
it's like 2
Yeah.
hours, yeah.
It's like, come
I didn't
on,
think about that.
deal with it for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Like that.
She's important, but I'm in the next class person. You
Yeah,
know, the
well-
thing is, I feel like in a situation there, I was on board. I was like, oh my god, he must be really into this girl, and I was like, great. I'm glad that shred of character still left, being like, well, it's gonna be broken tomorrow. I'll wait. You know what I mean? So
It's not gonna re-break.
it's not gonna-
Your leg's not gonna re-break, right? It's already broken.
He tries to get out that night, and there's a few things that surround him not making his flight. So we have to start first. Jeff in the sweatpants. Once the sweatpants are on,
Facts.
he's not going back out.
Facts.
All right. So James is
Facts.
hashtag team sweatpants.
Yeah, so, like,
my wife would agree with you, by the way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I call them personally my eating pants. When I put my eating pants on and I'm ready to stretch them out, yo, your boy ain't going nowhere.
I just feel like, oh, the pants are on. Get the food out here.
Hashtag eating pants.
That's what's up.
About that life.
What do you think, Rachel?
I don't know. It depends. Like, I agree with Jeff when he's like, well, what's the emergency?
Yeah, what's the emergency? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it depends.
There's a certain level. There's a certain level. I'm like, okay.
How did they get hit by the car?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think it's a valid point. Flobo, do you have eaten pants?
I don't have eaten pants.
Not
but
yet.
I will do it now. Thanks, Jason.
Yeah, you got it.
No, but I've been in situations where like you come home from a day and put on like your house clothes or whatever, or just walk around in your underwear. It's all good. And someone's like, "Hey, I need your help outside." You're like, "Does it have to be now? I mean, can you work until tomorrow and to stand at a newsstand?" I can't knock him. Even though he's staying at his friend's house rent-free, I totally understand being like, I'm not going back outside at a certain point in time.
No, look, I get it. I mean, there's little things that, it's your own personal decision. It's like, I already changed and my phone charger's out in the car. Just turn my phone off.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Okay.
I'll charge it in the
It's
morning.
died before.
Stuff like that, it's easy, but then it's like, oh, somebody needs something. Yeah, all right. I guess one of my kids needs medicine. Or whatever.
Way different than being at a newsstand. Way different.
But at the 24-hour Target, are they going to care that I'm in my Spider-Man PJ pants? I don't think they are. So I'll just head out. So that was the first thing. So I guess are we all in agreement with Jeff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
Well, that
Why
this
are we surprised?
emergency didn't warrant it.
Yes,
Because he was
yes.
going to have to put on clothes and watch a newsstand, which he didn't sign up for, even though he's crashing at Larry's house.
For free.
For free.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'll put it forward.
Yeah. And as Larry's agent, he of course takes a percentage of everything makes. So he's actually stealing money twice from Larry. All right, so we have that. And then Jon Hamm covers for him. We talked about Jon Hamm leaving it. But then there's the airport. And I'm not quite sure why Larry even asked the man and the woman if they were together. Because it wasn't like the guy went... See, that's what would have made sense in some level, is if the guy went and then it should be Larry's turn, then he could have been like, oh, are you together? Because then I'll let you go. But I don't know why he asked if they were together. He should have just...
I know why.
Okay. No. But like, why is he in the situation to even ask? Yes,
Yeah.
because he saw two African American people standing next to each other. He's assuming they're together. That part is the mistake.
Yeah.
But before he even gets to that point, why does he feel like he needs to ask them if they're together?
Well,
Go
I think
ahead.
okay, from Larry's head, so what I'm guessing is that he
Be
was,
careful not to spend too much time.
Yes,
on Larry's head.
yes, I'll
It's like,
try.
you may never come out.
I'll
Alice in
try.
Wonderland right there.
But
It's like if you try to read the Joker's mind. You
Yeah.
might
oh
not
no,
be- you might not
oh
make it out
no,
alive.
I'm done.
Look what happened
Yeah,
to poor
Harley
Quinn.
Quinn.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year to her. In any case, so I'm thinking from his perspective, he thought, okay, well, I want to cut in front of both these people, but maybe I'll let one person go if they're not together, then I'll go.
Okay.
Maybe he was trying in his own way to be a gentleman.
His
But
friend is
then,
his girlfriend.
then he makes the assumption, and just perfect storm, perfect Larry moment, because he makes that assumption. The person checking the IDs notices, and that couple seemed very entertained that he was about to be detained.
Did you guys recognize the woman of
I
the
did
couple?
not. No.
So it's Tracy Toms. She was she played in the theatric version of Rent.
Oh.
Okay, yeah.
Did you recognize her face when you
But did
No,
not.
I
I
did not.
recognized the TSA agent. That's
Yeah.
Comedian Ryan Davis.
Yeah.
Who saw me live and said I was hilarious. So shout out to Ryan Davis. He's amazing. But I thought it was kind of interesting too because okay, it's supposed to be the comedy of errors. You can't make it to the airport. It was awkward because they thought they were together, but they didn't hit that cliche note of how dare you think. They
Yeah.
were playful with it. Thought it was
Yeah.
pretty awesome. Like, oh yeah, we're going to Denver. There's a lot of black people there too. Say what's up. I thought it was pretty fun.
No, they weren't outraged as much as they're like, oh, this jerk thought we were together.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
have fun with this. And it was like, nice to meet you.
Yeah.
They played it up really well.
I
What did
thought
they
it
say?
was funny too when they were like, "It's a lot of black people in Denver." Tell them we said hi because we know them.
Correct.
It's like, yeah,
Which,
give
by
it
the
to
way,
them.
by the way, I heard that. I'm like, wait, have they ever been to Denver?
No, girl.
I mean, the Broncos, but other than that, and that's, of course, where we get to the situation where he's not able to get to Denver till the next day. What were you going to say, Rachel?
It was hilarious that he was like, yeah, because of course I would assume a man with a yarmulke, and like I forget the other reference he made, but
yeah.
A
basically
woman
somebody,
in like a kerchief.
yeah,
or-
like somebody who, he's
Yeah.
like, I would assume they were a couple too.
Yeah,
No.
which it's
No,
like it doesn't
bruh.
help. I don't. He usually doesn't do himself much
digging
of
a deeper hole.
Much
Yeah.
of a service when he does any of that. And of course, the episode does end with, of course, Becky saying to leave the flowers, but take that ugly ass balloon. And then of course Larry's like,
Verbatim.
"You can eat that Jello?"
Yeah.
And then he's just like, because. Here's the thing, though. But didn't he just fly first class? So he clearly ate.
Yes.
He didn't eat that Jello.
Ate well at that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If he had flown coach, there's no Jello.
yeah.
There's nothing.
Oh,
Crusty
Jello.
peanuts.
It's like bubble wrap.
No, I'm saying, but he just doesn't need it. He didn't need food.
Yeah, he didn't. Eat
Yeah.
it at all.
All right. So now this brings us to our curb correction corner, which is the moment that we most strongly disagree with Larry or someone else on the show. Rachel, what is your curb correction corner?
Oh man, I would.
There's a lot to choose from this week.
There's so many. I think what I thought was the craziest was the idea that I think Larry should have just let it alone when Richard was talking about the bleeding rectum, because Larry's the one who didn't want Michelle there, so he should have just dealt with the excuse that Richard came up with.
And I did like the callback that he tried to explain to Becky that he has the bleeding rectum, but
that was funny.
Hilarious.
What is your curb correction corner, James?
Mine would be a sub-character of this episode, but it would be with Becky. I was kind of like taken aback when she was genuinely upset when Larry came late. I'm like, yo, though he could have come earlier, he could have just sat and coached, he still came to visit you. And like you guys like hooked up a couple days ago and he's flying to Denver for you. I was like, girl, you should like be a little bit more
I'm going to leapfrog Flobo, because my curb correction corner is her calling him in the first place. She had the accident.
Sure. Excellent point.
It's like, did they hang out like 2 times? And like, so that's the person you're going to call? Like, why does she expect Larry to come to Denver?
I think that it boils down to her spite for Cheryl, because I remember, I feel like that was like another like side angle. I'm like, let me get Cheryl like this. I want to go sleep with her ex-husband.
Well, Flobo, give us your curb correction corner, and I believe you also have news.
I do. My curb correction corner is definitely the house. I mean, 15 years have passed. I don't know what you're looking for. You don't need the money. I mean, the house is already like, it has some value to it. Let it go. It's a gift.
So Larry doesn't need the money, but what if that was you?
Oh, it was me. I'm totally different.
Okay. And you would have slept with your ex-wife's sister as well?
Of course.
Yeah.
I have morals,
I mean, I only have so many houses to give to people.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Speak for yourself. So, Flobo, what's in the news this week about Curb?
AfterBuzz TV News.
Woo! This week's news comes from the New York Times. Actor J.B. Smoove, who plays Leon, who somehow has an affinity for drinking his own pee and Gatorade bottles, had a profile about how he came to be one of the cast members of Curb Your Enthusiasm. Get this. He was actually at a funeral for a friend and got a call from his agent to audition, and that changed his life forever. The actual profile walks him through the downtown jewelry district of how he has an affinity for pocket watches and all kind of jewelry. So check it out in the New York Times this week for the article of J.B. Smoove. There it is.
There it is.
I do believe it's behind a paywall, though.
It is behind the paywall.
You need to be a subscriber of the New York Times, which of course I am. So just DM me for my login.
He owns the New York Times. Who are we kidding?
Yeah, exactly. On your first class flights.
I know.
And I am Lazy Soulsburger here. So thank you to everyone for talking Curb. We will be back next week. We only have 2 episodes left. Oh my goodness! But you can guarantee that each of them will start with me wishing a Happy New Year. But until then, Rachel, where do people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Rach Goodman or on the Stumptown Outlander Retro Anatomy of a Movie panels.
Mm-hmm.
And no dumbwaiter, but James Maple.
Smart server.
You can find me anywhere and everywhere at Terrell James Maple. Also working on Masked Singer fan theories on Instagram as well. Talking about the Masked Singer. Check it out.
Fan theories?
Masked Singer fan theories.
Damn.
I know that one of them is Flobito.
I can't sing to save my life. There's no way.
Some of them can't sing anyway.
That's true. My name is Flobo Boyce. You can follow me at Flobo Boyce on Twitter, at Flobito on Instagram, and of course, Flobito.com. New content every week.
New content every week, and you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at ChristianDMZ. And of course, don't forget, we just mentioned shows that I do with other people on this panel. This is the only show I do with James, but we have over on Popcorn Talk Tuesdays at 3 p.m. We have Retro Anatomy of a Movie. This week, Wednesday at 4, The Trump Report. And of course, Thursdays, Star Trek Picard, 9 p.m. Marvel Movie News at 1 p.m. Pacific. That's a lot of plugs. That's all the time we have for now. But we appreciate all of you being here, and we'll appreciate seeing you again next week.
Oh, James' mama. How you doing?
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.